Welcome to I'll Hang Up and Listen. Duane doesn't have a voice anymore. And I think that is officially the first time I've spoken before you on one of these post-game shows. I have a hockey game in a little bit, but I had a few left over from the Bills-Rams weekend. And after that, I needed one. I absolutely needed one. It was the only thing that was going to make me quite possibly feel better about the situation. And you know what this is? This is really ironic that the thing that you've been tweeting about all day and which is coming up in 5 years was a 4.5-minute rant on a local radio station that made your voice heard and made your voice known throughout the hockey world. Really, the same situation, possibly even worse, is ironically making you speechless. How about that for irony? Is that not ironic?
No, it's ironic.
How about this? I'll start with a question and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Do you feel worse at this exact moment than you did at the moment you made that call?
As bad.
As bad, not worse?
Because before we really get into like the deep shit here, like when I made that phone call, which funny enough was played on today's episode of Spit and Chicklets. I'm like, listen, I don't like to self-glaze or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't like to openly talk about it because there's good and bad that have come with it, right? Like, it's
that was
like,
cool.
Yeah, it was a cool moment. And, you know, I mentioned I went live after the second period for like a few minutes. And I said, you know, I said that, you know, people like to come in and comment whenever I have an opinion, say, oh, your 15 minutes are up, but like, you're not the leader of the fan. Like, you know what I mean? Like this, you know,
I mean, there are a lot of trolls online.
Yo, yeah, it doesn't bug me. It doesn't bug me, but like, I try to avoid talking about it if I can. And then, you know, I wake up this morning and in our chat, you know, hey, Duane, they're talking about you on Chicklets. They played your call from start to finish.
And one of my favorite writers in the hockey universe, Down Goes Brown, Sean McIndoe,
one of the very first
wrote an article referencing your call 2 weeks ago about the state of the Sabres franchise. And he is as respected as anybody in the hockey community.
And guess what? He's coming on with us. He's coming on with us. I've been messaging back and forth with him.
I love Sean so much.
More surprises. Brad May will be coming on with us, and Greg Wyshynski will be coming on with us from ESPN.
Would you say this is a Mayday situation?
Yeah. Listen, I hold back a lot of stuff, you know, because, you know, I'm perceived as this over-the-top negative guy, and it's just like, and believe it or not, I do hold a lot back. Like I'm, because I hate hearing. I try and block that stuff out. You know what I mean? Like I just try and block it out, and it's like, you know, I'm just gonna try and be a fan and try and find optimism. And it was hard to find optimism this offseason, right? Like it was not for others, but for me, it's just like I was optimistic last year. They had a big runny shit down their legs last season. Fired the coach. They bring back Lindy, and I love that. I do. I still do. Because this isn't on Lindy. But they didn't. Not enough. Like, not nearly enough in the offseason. And I called it. And I said this. And Connor, you can attest it. I fucking said it. This team isn't going to be deep enough. They're not going to be good enough. They're not going to be tough enough. Getting Kubel and Malenstein, which you paid a high second-round pick for, by the way.
Could have gotten Mangiapane, that's for sure.
You know what I mean? Exactly. And you saw how well he played tonight.
Could have gotten Patrick Laine.
Yeah, listen. Don't even get me started with the Patrick Laine stuff. Just like, don't get me started with the Patrick Kane stuff. You know, everybody in that universe of Hockey Sabres Twitter, the analytics people told me, oh, he's washed up. He's terrible. The guy has 6 fucking goals in 7 games. 6 goals in 7 games, Connor. 6 goals in 7 games. And he's 26 years old. Connor, 26 years old. Do you know what that means? Can you enlighten the people watching what that would have meant in terms of the Sabres? And the excuse everybody loves to go to that players won't come here? He's 26. You know what that meant? He had no choice. He would have had no choice, Kevin Adams. You could have overpaid. You had the assets to overpay. And he fucking stuck it up your hoop tonight. A hat trick before the halfway into the second period.
And they were all goals, which he's like primarily known for too. Like that shot in a Tage Thompson fashion is what Patrick Laine was known for with his time with the Jets, with his time, the brief time with the Blue Jackets. That is precisely what he's good at. And we saw it on display in full glory tonight, which was the nail in the coffin. If it wasn't already dead, obviously I think Dylan Cousins' goal provided a tiny bit of hope. I didn't do the thing that I always do where you get optimistic. Thankfully, it didn't last long. The goal, which was, in my opinion, the only bad goal by UPL tonight, where Slavkovsky scored from behind the net and banks it off of him. Yeah. No goalie wants that to happen, obviously. But I don't put this on UPL. I really don't. I don't put this season.
We're not here to talk about tonight's game. We're here to talk about this team.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you. Look, but just in the grand scheme of,
I don't care about tonight's game because we all saw this coming. 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. Honest to God, after I sent you guys that message, I said I need to reflect. I was having a good night tonight. I was out with somebody tonight that I've enjoyed spending a lot of time with. We went to the holiday market, having a great time. And every time I looked at my fucking phone and saw a score update, it's just like depressing. I'm done with this. I'm done holding back with this hockey team. I'm done being Mr. Optimistic. Optimistic.
To be fair, I think that's what I provide, and you're a little bit more pessimistic than I am.
But there have been times where I've been optimistic.
Yeah.
And I had a glimmer of hope with this hockey team. Burn it to the fucking ground at this point. Burn it all to the ground.
I mean, the crazy thing is that I think the only 3 safe players are Tage, Dahlin, and Luukkonen. Those are
I wouldn't even say Luukkonen safe, man. He just gave 6 goals.
Well, I mean, again, I get your perspective though, like given what happened tonight. But as someone who was watching the game, it wasn't on him. It wasn't.
No, it just listen.
He's the only reason he's even slightly competed in games. He really has been. Like he's been pretty good this year. He really has. And I'm not one as a goalie apologist amongst all of the other goalie negativity out there. You cannot blame him for what is happening this season. You can't. The roster in front of him, including the bottom half of the defense, the middle 6 and bottom 6 of the forward group, is not good enough to compete in front of him. His goals saved above expected are above league average. He's been a largely good goalie this season. You cannot. Finally, you
nobody's
can't blame
him. But to sit there and look at this team as a whole and say he's untouchable, no fucking way. I'll even go further than that. Nobody on this team should be untouchable because nobody has shown that they've given a shit enough for me to sit there and say that they're untouchable. Not a single one of them.
I get your frustration, but Dahlin and Tage are untouchable.
Maybe. We'll see. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I see a lot of zero heart out there. And again, I've referenced this fucking conversation multiple times already with Brad May. He flat out said it then, and it's true as he said it then as it was tonight. There isn't a single guy on that team that's willing to die for one another out there on that ice. There isn't a single guy on that team that's willing to skate through a wall for one another. I'm sick and tired of being Zach Benson. He's 5'9", 180 pounds soaking wet. There's no heart. Rip the letters off all their jerseys. There shouldn't be a fucking captain on this team. There shouldn't be an assistant captain on this team. Nobody's fucking earned it. Nobody. And you can't tell me otherwise. Because the fact that they go out there after their little pep talk with Terry, right? Oh, the solutions in this room. I have faith in you guys. Oh, my God. There's no changes coming. They go out there to the allegedly the worst team in the National Hockey League, and they play like that. Rip the letters off all their jerseys. Rip them off.
I would say that the start of the game, believe me, I was this was one of the rare 4:00 games that I actually got home for in time from work on the West Coast. They started 4 out here. This was one of the rare games where I was actually able to get home, get it on the TV, sit on the couch, and be home in time for puck drop and locked in for the start of the game. And for them to let up a goal 19 seconds into the game, which in my opinion was a goal that resulted directly from a lack of effort. There was a forecheck. There was a bad bounce off the wall. It actually did take a pretty unlucky bounce off the referee's skate. But the fact that they were even in that position off a rebound, off a bad bounce off the back wall, told you everything you needed to know about where the mindset of this team was going into this game. It was as representative of what's going on with this franchise as anything that's happened during this now 11-game winless streak. I thought incorrectly that it couldn't quite possibly get worse facing the only team in the Eastern Conference with less points than us in a game that you, absolutely needed to have, that theoretically, had you won, you would have been in the mix for a wild card spot. And it turns out they shit down their leg and had the worst game I've ever seen a Buffalo Sabres team play. And that's truly saying something. And now they're in sole possession of last place in the Eastern Conference. For everybody that didn't know that, take a moment for that to settle in. Because 3 weeks and 2 days ago, they were in third place in the Atlantic Division. Not a wild card spot, third place in the Atlantic Division. And now they've gone winless in 11 straight. 3 games in which they've secured a point. And one of those games was it was the Detroit game when they were leading 5-3 in the third period. And they blew that one as well. It's representative of the players on the roster not being good enough, the players on the roster not having any confidence whatsoever to go out there and execute the system that Lindy is giving to them. It's representative of Lindy not having control of who his assistant coaches were going into this season. And for anyone that says he does, there's no way he would have brought back Marty Wilford. There's no way he would have brought back Matt Ellis. There's no way he would have hired only Seth Appert, who was never an NHL coach, to run his power play and be his main assistant coach. You think Lindy Ruff doesn't have any contacts in the NHL that what he could have brought in and given them a job on an NHL bench to potentially turn this group around in a win now mode? No, Terry didn't want to spend. It's representative of the $7.5 million in cap space that this team currently has and didn't spend for the 4th year in a row. Economic, efficient, whatever the third E was that Kevin Adams said 3 years ago. And it's representative of the fact that Terry Pegula didn't want to pay a real GM 4 or 5 years ago, and he hired a guy that worked at Harbor Center in Kevin Adams. Everything is connected, and it has led us to the spot where we are now. 11, 17, and 4, 11, the same amount of wins that the team has this season, 11 winless games in a row, sole possession of last place in the Eastern Conference. It is quite literally, and this is, again, truly saying something, one of the darkest days in the history of the franchise. I don't know how else other to say it, but but just like Duane, who's watched all of these games, and I saw it online tonight, and the reactions of people who knew it was coming, this is as bad as it's ever been. And I will leave my little rant, which is a little bit quieter than it should be, with this. If I do not wake up tomorrow morning, or I do not look at a notification at work during the day tomorrow that Kevin Adams has been relieved of his duties as GM, after a performance like that, after the meeting in Montreal, after everything that's happened, then this is an unserious organization. Terry Pegula is an unserious owner. He does not care, and he will not care if he does nothing. Simple as that.
That doesn't solve the problem as much as it needs to happen.
But something needs to happen, and then you go from there. Something needs to happen.
I don't know. Like, what do we do at this point, Connor? What do we do? Stage a protest? An actual protest this time? Like honestly, come Toronto. Toronto, we complain so much about how Toronto just shows up in this. Let them. I want nothing but blue and white jerseys in that arena when they play us. I don't want Sabres fans. I want that fucking arena full of Toronto Maple Leafs fans.
Well, to be fair, like we talked about
I
it last
want it to be a legitimate Leafs home game.
we talked about it last night. Like the adult fans of the team have every right to do that, right? Like for a lot of people in Buffalo and the surrounding area, it is technically an entertainment product, right? And families are still going to go to games because it is a fun thing to do. It is a good experience. It's something we all experienced growing up. Hell, even I have a flight out of LA on Friday afternoon, and it lands at 10:30 p.m. East Coast time. If I had gotten an earlier flight and got into Buffalo at 5:30, 6:30, I haven't been to a Sabres game all season. And I haven't been to a Sabres game since last winter. I would have gone to that game because I miss it. I miss the community. I miss the experience. I miss being in the building. I miss the nostalgia. I miss everything about it. But I very much understand the people that have season tickets that have supported this team night in, night out for years. You have every right not to support this team, given the product that's been put on the ice for years and the lack of direction from both the management, coaching staff, ownership, everything related to that. Every single person that lives in Buffalo or even doesn't live in Buffalo, that's just home for the holidays, you have every right not to go to the game. I will be going to the game on the 27th. I don't get many opportunities to be in that building. I will be going. And I will continue to watch the team because I enjoy watching hockey. And obviously we have this podcast, so we're legally required to do so. But I will say, after something like that, as bad as that was, of course, firing the GM and whoever the interim group is, whether it's the three guys we talked about and Jerry Fortin, Kubalowski, whoever he is, and Jason Karmanos, if it's an interim group of those guys, or they blow it all up, fire the entire front office, and bring in a guy like Ken Holland or Ray Shero, Darcy Regier, Tim Murray, who knows, maybe a combination of the two to come in and blow it up and make some trades and figure out something to at least switch this up. That is where you go from here. Because after a performance like that, leading into the holidays, leading into the Leafs game, something needs to happen. Something.
Listen, I don't even know what's the I almost said it. What's the solution? You know, when I was live.
The solution is in this room, Duane.
When I was live in between periods, I literally said, I stopped myself mid-sentence and I started like uncontrollably laughing. And I'll do it again right now. I said, whoever loses this game, I was like, they're fucking losing 6-1. Who's gonna lose?
The solution. The solution may have been in the locker room, but it definitely wasn't on the ice. It wasn't on the bench.
This team is so bad, dude. They're worse than the team. The team played with heart. They played with heart. They never ever this team. Oh my God, bro. They're so bad. They're so bad. There's no heart. There's no heart. I feel so bad.
I regret to report for everybody watching that this team has now made our good friend Duane absolutely mad.
They're so bad. They're so bad. You just lost to the Montreal Canadiens. Worst team in the East. And fucking Bull Rings too. 6-1. You're such a garbage team, hockey, dude. I wouldn't pay for another game. This is coming from me. How many post games have I done a season for how many years now? You know?
The really sad part. Did you were you even awake for the Sharks game?
What?
Were you even awake for the Sharks game a few weeks ago?
I fell asleep during the LA game, the 1-0 game.
Okay, and then did you see the Ducks or the Sharks game?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Like, so you stayed up through the completion of the last win.
Last two wins they had. Yeah, I stayed up.
I was gonna say it would have been really sad if, given how late it was, that you didn't even see the last 2 moments of happiness we've had in the last month.
Oh God, I'm sorry for everybody who I know. We have like over 300 comments in the chat right now. It's not an exaggeration.
As good as it's been.
Yeah. I can't keep up with it, guys, and I'm sorry. There's a lot. I'm just gonna kind of fly through them here and just click on them. Probably shouldn't do that because who knows what you're saying in there.
If there's a few, let's pause on a couple and then respond to them.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know. I don't know what we do here as a fan base anymore. I don't know solution. Put that fucking quote on a shirt, bro. Put that fucking quote. We gotta talk to Buffalo Go.
On a Hawaiian themed shirt with palm trees. The solution
Oh my
is in the
God.
room.
The solution is in this room. With Beck Malenstein, second round pick. With Fanta Anticubel. Peyton Krebs.
Wait. I do want to see the quotes. Let's see what Coolsey's saying. As a quick break.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna read them out. All right.
I was having such a great night with a great person, and
I got it,
man.
Here we go. Ready? Lindy says the goal against in the first minute really hurt them. Clifton on meeting with yesterday with Terry Pegula. We talk about how it's in this room, and that's what we believe. We are just not playing together. Clifton. Oh, Connor Clifton is answering questions. Thank God.
Oh my God, they got Clifton.
We got
a letter on his jersey. Put a letter on his jersey. Who cares?
We got embarrassed tonight. We expect better. I think we are waiting for someone else to do someone. This is a Freudian slip. We are waiting for someone else to do someone or make something happen.
So they're waiting for somebody. Like, that's Connor, that quote right there. Oh, that should get people traded tomorrow. Not Connor. Like, I've liked Connor this season, but like, if that is a fact, then you have such a deep issue that it's not going to be fixed in that room. That means people need to leave. That means players need to go.
Okay,
that's a fact.
You want a good one? You want a really good one? And I love Ryan McLeod. It's also funny that up until this point, neither Ryan McLeod or Connor Clifton have been the main people answering questions after games, which I find to be interesting. But here you go. You're gonna lose your shit. McLeod says he doesn't expect changes to be made with the roster, coach, owner, etc. Tuck says Tuck has been there pretty consistently. The change has to fall on our shoulders. The change has to come from within this room. This is something that they have to say. I don't know if they actually believe it. They came out with a lot more energy than us. For some reason, we had no spark in our game. They took it to us. For some reason. Tuck says the game and their performance tonight had nothing to do about yesterday's meeting with Terry Pegula.
Oh, she probably thinks I'm a psycho over there. You think I'm a psycho? Oh, I'm a psycho. Oh, she's a keeper. Oh my God, it's so bad.
I also said this earlier. Has there been a moment in the history of these two franchises, the Bills and the Sabres? The Bills, since they've been a part of the NFL in 1970, and the Sabres since their inception in the year 1970. My dad had season tickets to both. He's been a strong supporter of both teams ever since. Has there been a moment in the history of these two franchises, which someone else may need to answer because I'm not as old as some other people are, but has there been a moment where the vibes from each team are at further ends of each spectrum? The Bills at this exact moment, I think, could not be more beloved. We could not have a more superstar player leading the franchise who is likely going to be the league MVP. This is likely the best chance they've had to win the Super Bowl. They're the current Super Bowl favorite on a lot of sports books. Likely the best chance they've had to win the Super Bowl in any year in the Sean McDermott era, maybe even the 90s. The city is absolutely in love with him. You can't go to a shitty 12-degree game against the New England Patriots on Sunday, which I was attempting to go to, but I'm not going anymore, for less than $200 in the worst seat in the 300 level. The team likely has a very good chance at the 1 seed, given the Chiefs' schedule to end the season. They very well could have 2 home playoff games and get to the Super Bowl and potentially even win the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Meanwhile, the Sabres are last place in the Eastern Conference. Nobody knows what's going to happen to the GM. Our current captain has been out for 10 games. Nobody knows, aside from back spasms, when he's going to be back. Nobody can score. They can't defend. The roster's not good enough. The owner hasn't spoken to us in over 4.5 years, who is the same over at the Bills, coincidentally enough. Has there ever been a time in the history of these two franchises where there's been a greater distance between the two? Would you say there has been or not?
No, this is about as far apart as you've ever seen these two franchises, man. Like, and there's no, don't question it. This is worse than the Bills drought. The Bills were competitive. They signed Pro Bowl caliber players. They were in the hunt at the end of the season.
It's much easier to make the playoffs in the NHL than it is the NFL. Much easier.
In a league where the teams make it, God. The teams make it.
And especially this season.
Half the teams make the NHL playoffs.
So the second wild
this is a year where you can make the playoffs with like 90 points.
No, 86 is the current projection.
86. Oh, that's even better. That's even better. Oh.
The Sabres are currently on place for less than 75. So this is something I'd like to respond to. The Bills were 7-9 every year. They were in what is called NFL purgatory. They were never bad enough to get a high enough pick, but they were never good enough to make the playoffs. They were either 7-9, 6-10, or 9-7. There were a couple of years that they were bad enough, and I think they got Marcel Darius, who obviously didn't turn out to be the player that they at the position where they drafted him. But they were never quite, which is honestly a mistake on their part for never fully tanking to the point where they could have gotten a really good quarterback, that they could have been in a position to get a Josh Allen. That is quite literally the reason. The 2018 season is when the 2017 season. After the 2017, they traded up to get Josh Allen after they broke the drought. And they were pretty bad that first year when he was a rookie. But this is as bad as it's ever been. In terms of anything, I know you don't want to talk about the game. I do have a game myself, so I have to get out of here pretty soon. In terms of moving forward, I actually do expect to wake up to a notification that Adams was relieved of his duty.
Shouldn't even be allowed on the plane, bro. He should have to take an Uber back home.
Go
fucking pack it in. Go back to your place in Clarence, bro. You should not be. And I feel bad for saying it because he's a nice guy. I've talked to him.
I don't necessarily think it's his fault. We all know whose fault it is. 2005 Bills.
Apparently, Hambone's trashing the organization as we speak. I don't know. I don't even care.
That's interesting because he technically works for the station. He
tells the company line.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean,
I want to share some things, dude. Like, so I have a table. Shout out to Greg Day, one of my best friends, if not my best friend, and he made me this cool podcasting table. Old Sabres goat head logo on it. He makes these tables a lot, just like as a side gig. If you ever want something, they're super nice. You reach out to them. But I have all my hockey cards like underneath there, that. Malarchuk, friend of the program, been on the pod with us so many times. Ryan Miller here. Even fucking good old Craig Anderson right there, all goalies.
Do you guys see the Fidelity commercial during games where there's an actor named Ryan Miller?
Yeah. And then
that really twists the favorite.
Got that guy right there. I love this, even though it's damaged a little bit because my dog knocked it over. But my favorite things from the Justician boys.
That's a good one.
Signed by Miller and Hasek skateboard deck. Got my Hasek lithograph back here. All my starting lineup Hasek to my Pat LaFontaine autograph photo, which you can't really see. It's up there, yeah, there with the odd. All my starting lineup.
What's Pat LaFontaine doing right about now? Do you think he has like a glass of whiskey and a cigar, and he's just smiling? Do you think he can't?
One of the most humble human beings you'll ever meet that used to be a pro athlete. Like the epitome of how an athlete should carry themselves before cameras were ever in their face, filming everything they did, just in children's hospital, visiting sick kids on his own time, even in the late hours of the night after they got back from fucking games and road trips. There's stories about it, man. And he will not even walk in your arena because he hates what happened to him. And you know what I mean? Like, and I've heard stories that I believe to be true. And I've told you those stories, and I'm not going to talk about it on air, but like just the way they treated him. His name is in the fucking rafters, and he won't even step foot in your building, man. Oh my God. It's just like,
it's pretty sad.
How does Ray, a guy who played the style of hockey he did and was in those locker rooms under Ted Nolan, a guy who would literally, there's another guy that you fucking, you insulted, embarrassed, forced him to coach a team that was tanking and then didn't retain, you know what I mean? Like Ted Nolan, a guy who could get a mediocre hockey team to skate through a wall for him and compete every night, full of a bunch of misfits. Guys like, Barnaby, Ray, Brad May, Derek Plant, Jason Dahl, Brian Holzinger, just the list goes on and on and on and on. And then you go from him to Lindy Ruff, who's coached the fourth most games in the history of the NHL. You know what I mean? And those guys that played for him and they played so hard and they knew how much we cared in the stands, and they knew how much it mattered to us, Connor. They knew how much it mattered to us, and they showed it, and they even said it in that 05-06 season. Brian Campbell said it. He goes, as much as we wanted to win for each other and for ourselves, we wanted to win a Stanley Cup for those fans because they were there through all the shit, and they've been there from day one, and they show up no matter what, and they care, so we care. And it's mediocrity, Connor. It's mediocrity from where we were, from where we are now, and how do we get out of it? Because I miss walking down or driving down Side Street and seeing kids wearing Sabres jerseys, playing hockey, and having a blast till it's nighttime out. Even when it is nighttime out, under streetlights, you don't see it anymore. Because you know why? Because the Sabres didn't inspire them the way they inspired me, the way they inspired you, the way they, you know what I mean, the way that they made us fall in love with hockey. They haven't done that in a decade, and the reason the fan base is the way it is because the way they treated us, the way they, and again, what's worse about it is they treat us like we're morons. They think we're morons. 5 years ago when I made that phone call, it was like, maybe changes will happen. Maybe something will spark and something will happen. Now it's like, you're going to sit there and say the salute. Like, no, Terry, we're not fucking stupid. We're not a bunch of, like, you stop treating us like we're a bunch of idiots. I have nothing left, man. I have nothing left. I want to enjoy the rest of my night. I don't know how you get out of this and where to go from here.
Yeah. Me neither. In a macro setting, but in a micro setting, it starts with firing the GM. It does. And that'll at least show that they care enough to have a scapegoat, a sacrificial lamb. Kevin Adams hasn't been perfect, but he also came in with no experience, and he hasn't been good enough. He didn't do enough with whatever means he had this offseason to put a competitive roster out there, which is now the worst in the Eastern Conference. They started off pretty good, but they're not good anymore.
Not to change something, but have we given news why Ray hasn't been on the broadcast?
I haven't heard anything. No.
Maybe he's just tired of it.
I wouldn't want to assume that, though. I
wouldn't want to assume that, man, but like I hope everything's okay. I really do.
Yeah, could be anything.
If that was the reason why, he's just tired of, like, or maybe he said something that, we don't put it past, Pagula to get angry. I know firsthand. If you say something,
we've seen it as recently as not allowing inflatable palm trees into the building. So like I said, if this continues, I will be wearing a Hawaiian shirt to the game next Friday night against the Blackhawks. Which, in a bit of positive news, let's promote again that it looks like we will be doing a pregame show for all you sickos that want to come down to
we didn't even do the ad read
downtown.
Do you want to try the ad read for once, Connor?
Yeah, I would do it 100%.
All right, let's hear it. Spit it out.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I'll do it then. Well, just to remind you, everybody, this is brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room, with over 300 beers to choose from at all locations. When you get to a Fatty Beer, make sure you let them know 2 goalies, 1 Mike sent you, and try one of their 24 beers of Christmas from their Fatty Beer Advent calendar. If there are still any available, there might not be.
I'm gonna have all 24 when we're there.
Twice, and
48 in honor of Daniel Briere. I'm gonna have 48.
Yeah, 48, and live music, entertainment, trivia at all their locations all week long. The holidays is one of the best times to go down there. Like I said, we're gonna. What's the date? The 27th.
December 27th. It's a Friday night. Everyone's home for the holidays. This is something I'm legitimately excited for. I know we all interact on here. We interact online. I rarely get the opportunity to meet people in person and to talk about all the things we complain about, and even just converse online about this godforsaken hockey team. So as bad as it is, and as bad as it may be in a week and a half, doing a live show in person before the game and then going to the game is something I'm legitimately excited for. So if anybody, you don't even have to go to the game. Just come down and go to Fatty Beer and have a good time at the restaurant. Come hang out with us. We'll have a beer together. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, being the Bills, the state of where they are in the grand scheme of the NFL, anything else. We don't have to talk about the Sabres aside from the pregame show. I would love to meet a lot of you. It means a lot to me. I'm not home often. I live out here in LA, for those that don't know. And it would mean a lot to me if a lot of people showed up for that. And I know it would mean a lot to the people down at Fatty Beer as well. So it's something I'm looking forward to. Maybe it could be a sort of protest of our own, right? Like we all show up. I'm going to go to the game. None of you have to. But it could be a meeting spot for all of us to air our grievances and to talk about the things that are ailing us at the moment, which is currently this hockey team. So I look forward to meeting some of you. I look forward to being home. And it's going to be a lot of fun. That's it. That's all for me. I got to get out of here.
All right, guys. I don't have much left to say either. When do they play next?
Friday night against the Leafs.
Fuck, man. Like I said, guys, just don't even go to the game. Just I want it to be a Leafs home. I really do. I hate saying that because everybody knows I hate the Leafs. But like, if you want to send a message, make that a Leafs home game. You know what I mean?
If you want to go to the game, that's okay too.
Yes, but I'll see you guys at Fatty Beer. I'll be flying into town for the holidays and going to the Sabres game. You should make it a Hawaiian theme. Would be sick. That's not a bad idea. Let's do it. We're going to do that. Hawaiian themed pregame show at Fatty Beer, probably at the downtown location. Nate, shoot us a DM. I don't know if you follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter or even Instagram. Just follow those handles. Shoot us a DM. And, like I said, and all of you are invited. We're going to promote the shit out of this, and it'll be a good time. And we can just share, throw some back and share some stories about our favorite memories with this team during this exhausting, miserable fucking
Or just talk about the Bills.
That too. Invite Terry. We should. Could we? Can we write an open letter to Terry Pagula to come to Fatty Beer?
My dad's great at writing open letters to the editor of the Buffalo News, so I'll have him do it.
Have him pen one.
Yeah, I honestly, he's probably already drafting it up after that game.
Yeah, I hope so. That being said, guys, this has been another edition of I'll Hang Up and Listen. Again, brought to you by Fatty Beer and your 2 favorite miserable Sabres fans here in Duane and Connor Hurley. I appreciate the shit out of you guys watching along. Tonight especially. It shows right here. We've been live for about 40 minutes, and over 3,000 of you psychopaths have tuned in.
These are some of the best shows.
It is. Unfortunately, it is. And what really helps us, and what we really appreciate, man, is please make sure that if you enjoy our content and that you enjoy, because it does take. This is time from our lives, and that's what makes it even more exhausting. Is as much as we love this, it's time away from friends and family and people we love sometimes. And sometimes, like nights like tonight, it gets just more difficult, you know. So when you guys tune in and spend your time with us, we really appreciate it. So, you know, if you do us a favor, please hit that like button, subscribe on YouTube, hit that little bell notification so you're notified when we go live. And if you don't follow us already on the X app, formerly Twitter, you know, our handles are right there at Duane S39, at Heroes13. You can find us at 2 Goalies 1 Mike. You can find us on those handles at Instagram too, or find us on Facebook. And if you just listen to, Blue Sky too. You can find us on Blue Sky as well. I actually just got a message why I haven't been on Blue Sky yet. So I need to
be a little bit better about it, but the algorithm on the artist formerly known as Twitter has been pretty good lately. So it's hard to stay away.
I know. And of course, if you're an audio only guy, you know, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Please make sure you follow along. I am Duane for Connor Hurley. As always,
go Sabres.
Go Sabres.